Well, hello and welcome back to my channel, Take This Personally. So today I have a pretty cool video to make for you guys. I know last week I showed you guys some of the vinyl that I already had. Today I wanted to do something that I'm going to call recent listens. I want to talk about some of the things that I've been listening to this week, like other than things like the podcast or, you know, new releases. Fortunately, I keep this book. What this is essentially, I'm going to show you if you can't see it, but like for the last couple of years I've just been writing down everything I listen to basically. And the reason for that is because, a lot of the time, I'm sure if you guys listen to black metal and you probably are already familiar with this, but like sometimes you're listening to this shit and it's like underground, and it may have a weird name. But it's like awesome, and you listen to it and then you're like, damn, this is fucking great. And then, you know, a couple months goes by and you want to listen to it again, but you can't remember what it's called at all, and it's like impossible to find. And then you maybe like will ask somebody if they know of it, and they don't, and then it's just really hard to get back to it again. So I just keep a kind of like a log of all the things I listen to. And it is interesting to go back through it and see what I was listening to like exactly a year ago. Which is my favorite part of doing this, and mostly why I do it. It's also really great to find things that I've listened to maybe a few months ago that I'd like to revisit. But generally it's just kind of a fun project. But it does make it really easy for me to do things like these recent listens videos, because I know exactly what I've been listening to lately. So over the past like 2 or 3 days or so, I have been listening to some interesting stuff. So I'm just going to talk about a couple of them. And I'm going to exclude, obviously, all the new releases shit that I've been listening to, because I'm going to talk about that in my next video on Monday. I also want to talk a little bit about my latest, dollar bin haul. So here, I live in Toronto, the biggest city in Canada, but I'm very fortunate because here we have a lot of record shops and stuff like that. There's a particular route that I like to walk that has like 5 or 6 record shops along it, and it's not a very long route. Like if you walked it without going into any shops, it would take maybe like a half an hour. So every once in a while I like to walk along there and stop and go through the dollar bins, and I like to challenge myself and see how many records I can get for like the price of if I were to buy a brand new record at like Sonic Boom, which is probably the most well-known shop around here, which will run you about $25 to $30. So for under $25 to $30, I like to see how much I can get out of the dollar bins, if I can find anything cool. So I did that yesterday, and I'm going to talk a bit about what I've found. So there's a whole bunch of things that I want to get done today, so hopefully this video won't take forever. Let's get started. So if I have the stuff I've been listening to recently, if it's on vinyl, I will have it here, and I will show you guys. Let's get started. The first thing that I want to talk about is Duke by Genesis, which is an old favorite of mine. One of my favorite Genesis albums, even though it's more like pop rocky than their earlier stuff, which is, you know, more progressive and stuff like that. I love all of that stuff too. It's just this one is, you know, it's just been one of my favorites for a really long time, so every once in a while it's nice to revisit. So the last couple of days I've been listening to this a little bit. I like to wake up in the morning sometime and just put it on because it's nice. But anyways, so I do have it right here. This came out in 1980, and this is the 1980 Atlantic Recording Corporation version of this. And this is the one that has the text in the bottom corner like that. So one of the other defining features, you know, that you can identify this version is also the little leaf up in the top corner over there. This is generally just a really great album, and I have so many things to talk about today, so I can't go way in depth with this. This is just always a nostalgic revisit for me. Okay. Candlemass, Nightfall. I've been listening to this a lot lately, but that's mostly related to the fact that I just bought it. So I've already talked about this in my video last week, so I'm not going to talk about it again, but I'm going to show it off a bit because I'm excited about it. It's a picture disc. If you want to hear me talking about this, go watch my last video about my vinyl haul. which I'm going to start making those pretty regularly. I've got some cool stuff on the way, actually, so I may make another one of those Great, so the next thing I want to talk about is GBH, City Baby Attacked by Rats, which I believe came out in 82. 82 is right? I think so. But yeah, this was their debut. And City Baby Attacked by Rats is just, it was my introduction to GBH, so it was a pretty good introduction. And of course, this is like one of the classic albums of like the entire hardcore punk genre, so it's super important that way. Anyways, first I'm going to show off my vinyl, of course. So this is actually new. I bought it recently. I don't remember if I talked about it in the last video, so apologies if I did. But anyways, it's so cool. One of the coolest things about this particular, is that it's actually transparent vinyl. So yeah, like this is so cool. It's beautiful. I was taking it out just to look at it. But anyways, this is actually the re-release from, Yeah, it's the Captain Oi re-release. So if you couldn't tell when I showed you the back, there's some extra tracks on here. There's about 6 extra. The last one, they are No Survivors, Self-Destruct, Big Woman, Am I Dead Yet, Slit Your Own Throat, and Sick Boy. So those weren't on the original release here. When Captain Oi reissued it, or re-released it, they added those bonus tracks in. So that's a pretty cool thing. But yeah, that's GBH, City Baby Attacked by Rats, longtime favorite of mine. Anyways, so I do have some other things to talk about that I don't have here on vinyl with me. And the first one is Hate Forest. So, I mean, I'm not going to specify a particular album just because I've been revisiting so much Hate Forest lately. But anyways, like the 2 albums that I've been going back to quite a bit are Battlefields and Purity, which is, both of them were in 2003, so just kind of that era. And I know the Most Ancient Ones is their most well-known one, but that's never been one that really resonated with me a whole lot. I think it was in 2001, so these came later. But I mean, the main reason is because it kind of rips off Darkthrone a little bit. And it just generally doesn't sound as well put together and polished as things like Battlefields and Purity later on. I mean, of course, if that is your favorite Hate Forest album, like, I'm not gonna shit on it, like, whatever, to each your own. But to me, like, albums like Purity seems much more refined stylistically, more evil, and very, very, very colder than the Most Ancient Ones. So for those reasons, I mean, that's why I prefer albums like that. But for those of you who don't know, Hate Forest is actually a side project of Roman Sanko from Judka. So it's really interesting to go through this shit because, like, honestly, you wouldn't be able to tell it's the same guy. Like, the style is so different. And that's one of the things I find refreshing about Hate Forest. I love to see artists exploring different ideas. Just, you can get 2 different sides of the same artist. And, but yeah, for those reasons, I've been revisiting a lot of Hate Forest lately. The other 2 albums, I have 2 other recent listens to talk about. Defeated Sanity, Disposal of the Dead, and Dharmata. So it's kind of like, both sides of those albums are completely different from each other. I heard someone describe, I think on like the Metal Archives or something, that it's kind of like they did a split with themselves, or maybe, well, I don't remember where I read that, but yeah, that basically sums up perfectly what that album is. I actually was listening to this last night with Clint. We like to listen to music together, so that one and the next one I'm going to talk about, we both revisited those last night. But Defeated Sanity, like, this album came out in 2016, and it wasn't one that I actually devoted a lot of time to, although I did listen to it. I didn't really end up going back to it. I think I just remember being distracted by a whole bunch of other great stuff that came out, because 2016 was a pretty good year for QCBM too, so of course that, you know, as far as anything that wasn't QCBM went that year, I was just like, but yeah, anyways, it's really nice to go back to it now. Was it from 2016 or was it from 2017? Okay, if it's from 2017, forget everything I just said. But, you know, oh well. Anyways, like I said, it's like 2 completely opposite ends of the spectrum here. So the first one is very, like, it's brutal death metal, and it's, you know, classic Defeated Sanity, I want to say. The second side of the album, though, is, like, more progressive death metal. It's a lot more jazzy, a lot more, like, avant-garde-ish. They actually had a different vocalist for the second side, and it's just so cool being able to see a band that can do 2 completely separate things like that. I mean, that is a 1 in a million trait. And usually when bands try that, it comes across as like really fuck-witted, I guess. Like it seems like indecisive, and I mean, usually what happens is they can do the two things decently, but then they just can't do either of them very well. This is not a case like that. Like, both sides of this album are fucking awesome. Both of them. Like, this is just such a masterpiece of an album, and I'm really surprised that I didn't end up going back to it more than I did when it first came out. But it's really nice to go back and check it out later on, because it's interesting when you look back at years like that, because your priorities change. And so, years down the road, what you say might be the album of the year for a certain year might be totally different than the one you picked at the end of the actual year. But yeah, so that's something I'm probably going to be listening to that, over the next few days as well, just putting that on. But the next thing I want to talk about, which I have to talk about quickly, unfortunately, because I have all this to go through, maybe I'll split it up into 2 different videos if I end up talking about this one for too long. So that is Thorns of the Carrion with The Scarlet Tapestry, which is one of the most criminally underrated and underknown Gothic Doom albums of all time, honestly. It just blows me away how stunning and beautiful this entire album is from start to finish. And this came out in 1997. I believe Thorns of the Carrion were active for about 10 years or so, and I don't think they ever had a label. Like this album, Scarlet Tapestry, it was independent, which is incredible, and unfortunately was only ever released on CD as far as physicals go, because it's really sad, because I would buy that on vinyl in a heartbeat. It's beautiful. But anyways, so it is impressive that they actually never managed to have a label for that. I don't know if it was, it must have been deliberate. It was so good I can't see any label not approaching them for it. But anyways, a lot of people will say that this album is actually too long, but I find the length actually really good. If you think it's too long, it's probably because you're not listening to it in the right circumstances. It's a very heavy album, and you have to be in the right mindset for it. Otherwise, I do see where it can get away on itself, really, and you might find yourself losing interest in it. But if you listen to this and you're in the mood for like a serious listen, the length is perfect. Because, when I was listening to it last night, I didn't find that it dragged on long at all. But I wasn't left feeling sad that it was that short either. Like, when it ended, I felt completely satisfied, lengthwise. And there aren't really too many albums around that do that for me, and so that is a pretty special thing. I believe it's actually a concept album, too, about the death of a woman. So you can kind of tell from the album art, it does look like a woman being taken away by like a dark figure, which must represent death. But it is really sad. And the lyrics are absolute pure poetry, and it's kind of hard to tell what they are if you're just listening. You have to go out and follow along as you're listening, which I didn't do last night, but I went back later on to look. And one of my favorite verses on the whole album I'm gonna read, so you can get a sense of the kind of lyrics they're writing. This is from the song Memories Forever Unadorned, which I believe is like 18 minutes long, but anyways, it goes, I shall never forgive the gods for the misery they gave her to be, for the pain of her death has destroyed the joy of life and love. I shall never again behold her grace nor her divinity upon thy eyes, like grains of black sand falling through thy desperate grasp. I have mourned her grievous loss, draped in grey veil of deceit. Distant memories entwine thy hatred for the loneliness of life. So, like, this is pretty deep shit. Like, it's really heavy, and the lyrics are beautiful. But, one of the coolest things about this album is that, these guys are they're confident enough in their skills that, partway through the album, they'll just totally depart from the whole Gothic Doom thing and do something completely different. Just from, totally other genre that's just some kind of, tangent in this completely other direction, but it works very well, it flows very well, and then once it's over, your ears are refreshed and you're ready to come back into it, and it holds your interest for the whole way through. And it's very, very, very hard for a band to do that without coming off like it's kind of a distraction to the music. Like with this, it's like it's inserted at just the right spots too, where it's like you're kind of in the mood for a change of pace. And if they didn't have it exactly there, it might not be, the length of the album wouldn't suit it anymore, I would say, because it's just, it helps to hold your attention. and there aren't too many bands that are skilled enough to do that or confident enough in their skills that they would even try something like that, I think. So, like, this album is so impressive, and honestly, if you've never heard it, then you are definitely missing out on one of the greatest gems in doom metal, really. So that is, once again, the name. Thorns of the Carrion is the band, and The Scarlet Tapestry is the album. And I think I've gone on about this album for like at least a few minutes now in this video. I don't have time to do my my next my dollar bin thing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna stop the recording here, and I'm gonna upload this, you know, whenever I see fit. I mean, I do have all my dollar bin records right here, so I'm just gonna go and make the second video like right now, and I guess I'll figure out later when I want to release that. But yeah, so hopefully you enjoyed this recent listens thing. I'd like to make it a regular thing because it's really not that much work to do. Like, honestly, I've just been like looking on here for like my recent listens, and I have some notes on the computer, like mostly release years and stuff, because I'm bad at remembering dates like that. And like, of course, when I read that passage from The Scarlet Tapestry, I have that like up over here. But like, honestly, most of this I'm just kind of winging it, like, and it's super easy to make these videos, so I'm gonna definitely be doing more of these, maybe once a week. But yeah, so keep an eye out for this next video. I also have new releases coming on Monday, some cool stuff to talk about there, and keep an eye out for the podcast on Sunday as well. Which, yeah, if you haven't checked that out already, it's at takethispersonally.wordpress.com, and soon that actually is going to be upgraded to takethispersonally.com, so soon you may be able to access it through there. Anyways, that's enough for this video, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time.